All right, let's get into the
In
second
that
report he
is there
received.
the same clock skew alignment or a different clock skew alignment that Mr. Burgess now undertakes?
Mr. Burgess undertakes a different alignment in that report.
Let's go to slide 13. Describe what we're looking at in this slide.
So what I have here on the left is a screenshot of page 42 from Mr. Burgess's supplemental report. And so now he's done two things new here. He's identified
it's text stream. I said
a
it
new
wrong.
method for aligning the data based on the 3-point turn. So now he's kind of following where Dr. Welcher started, but he's approaching it a little differently. And secondly, he is now calculating the actual time. He's doing the difference calculation, and he's applying that to the time. So now he's taking the calculation all the way through, which is a little different from the prior reports.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he does that, he makes my job really easy because I didn't have to do really any math now. He comes up that there is a range now. So prior to this point, the original report by Mr. Burgess and Dr. Welcher reports all used discrete points in time, right? They sought to find an event that occurs at a singular second and another event at a singular second and align based on that. This is a little bit of a departure from that approach.
Give me one
Mr.
second,
Burgess is
guys.
now using a range of times, a range of uncertainty. He basically assesses that the 3-point turn data from the phone and the 3-point turn data in 1162-1 cannot be precisely aligned down to a single point. Rather, they overlap in this range of seconds. And so he then says that that range must be applied. So now we have to apply a range. And what we end up with is 9 possible values. So it kind of looks like one conclusion, but really there's 9 conclusions on this slide. And so if we just applying the math he has in the supplemental report, John's interaction window now has a range of 9 possible values. And that range spans from +5 now to -3. So we have 5 positive values. We have 1 value that's 0, and the 0 would mean it's simultaneous. And then we have 3 negative values.
Does Mr. Burgess indicate in his report that any one of those values is more likely than any of the other values?
He does not provide any data or analysis to support 1 point being preferential over the other 8.
And are there more or fewer positive results in his analysis than negative?
There are more positive numbers in that range of 9 than there are negative numbers.
Does Mr. Burgess's new data indicate anything about Dr. Welcher's analysis about the GPS data point 154 being at the end of the 3-point turn?
He opines in that aligning the 3-point turn on a singular point is not, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know the exact way he states it, but not the preferred method.
Is Mr. Burgess's analysis consistent or inconsistent with Mr. Welcher's determination that GPS point 154 was at the end of the text stream event?
Objection.
Sustained.
Does Mr. Burgess, in his report, indicate whether he agrees or disagrees with Dr. Welcher's analysis?
I don't remember specifically.
In your opinion, I asked you about Mr. Burgess's report. Now I'm going to ask you about your opinion. In your opinion, is this new offset any more likely or reasonable than any other offsets previously proposed by Mr. Burgess?
I don't think it is more or less likely. I think it is a valid approach, certainly. And so I think the results from the additional analysis should be included with the analysis of all of the results so far.
Not
And
just handpicked.
None of those results are more or less likely than any of the others, correct?
Sustained.
Are any of the results, in your opinion, to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, are any of the results any more or less likely than any of the others?
It's my opinion they're all equally weighted.
That's huge. He said it could have been any one. It could have been any one of those times, but he decided to pick the one that fit the narrative of the Commonwealth. Come on, man.
It's my opinion they're all equally weighted.
Did Mr. Burgess account for the 3-second offset that we talked about earlier in his May 2025 report?
We already know the answer to that.
I did not see any mention of that in his supplemental report, and certainly the 3 seconds isn't present in his math. I don't see it there.
Let's go on to slide 14, please. Describe what we're looking at here in this table.
This is very similar to the table we looked at previously, where I look at all possible combinations. Now, however, I just have a lot more data points to show, so I've had to break the table into 2 tables. So we're going to look at this, and then we'll look at slide 15 next, which is the second table. I just couldn't cram 30 lines onto one slide.
Let's move to the next slide then. Is this a continuation of the
second half? So think of these as a singular table. I just had to split them up. If we head back to slide 14.
It's a lot easier to read, too.
We'll start there. So this slide, I'm not accounting for the key on, and that's the main difference between my 2 tables. Table 1, I'm not accounting for the 3-second key on. In table 2, I am.
When you say key on, you're talking about that 3-second delay.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
But again, I want to make sure we're thinking about this as a singular table, because that's where we'll draw our conclusions from. So the first lines of the table, we've already seen those. Those were in my original table. I haven't changed those. That's the same math that's been there. All I did was I added the 9 points now from Mr. Burgess's supplemental report using the range he shows. And so now we can see if we include that, now we get some positive numbers for John's interaction window. We get that 0. And again, the 0 would imply that the end of event 1162-2 is happening exactly at the same second as the phone lock. So it's kind of not on one side or the other. So I think it should be thought of as separate. And then we have 3 negative values, which would imply that phone lock occurs before the end of 1162-2.
And did you already mention the one that was simultaneous?
When John's interaction window is 0, correct.
0.
That would imply simultaneity.
All right, is this 14 or 15? This 14, let's move to 15. Now, this is a continuation of that. Mentally, we'll just continue that same table?
Correct.
Okay.
Just a continuation. Imagine in your mind is just rows 16 to 30.
Okay.
And it's the same thing, same format, except for now we're just adding in that key on adjustment, because again, I think the analysis should be run with and without it. And so now when we run this with the key on adjustment, we get 14 of these 15 are John's interaction window is positive to various degrees.
Later.
And one of them, it's 0, again, simultaneous. And there are no negative values with this adjustment.
Can we go to the next slide, 16, please? What are we looking at here?
This is the summary, then, of that table, kind of a verbal summary of the giant 30-line table now. And if we look at all of the possibilities from all of the Aperture reports collectively, then we can draw some pretty straightforward conclusions. 25 of those 30 possibilities result in interaction with the O'Keefe phone after the end of event 1162-2. Looking at all the possibilities, 2 of the 30 result in interaction where it's simultaneous. That's the zeros. They're present in both tables. And then looking at all 30, 3 of the 30 result in interaction with the phone before the end of event 1162-2.
Which means?
Do you have an opinion as to which of these particular offsets that you've described, these 30 possibilities, should be applied in this case?
No.
Why is that?
Each of the approaches have their own individual strengths, and each of them have their own individual weaknesses. And there is not really any published literature, any research, or any testing done that I'm aware of that would suggest one really stands head and shoulders above another one of the methods. So I think the most fair way to present it is to look at, again, if we combine everything together, then we can draw some conclusions like this in terms of how many of the total result in one outcome or another.
Is every data point that we're looking at and that you've been talking about, are these all drawn directly from Aperture's reports?
That's correct. I have not proposed any methods for aligning the clocks myself. All of the methods that comprise these 30 are from the Aperture reports themselves.
Based on your analysis of the Aperture, or your review of the Aperture analysis, is there any ability to say to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty that the tech stream event occurred after the last physical interaction with John O'Keefe's phone?
Yes, there would be three out of the 30 possibilities would result in that.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty that it did happen after the tech stream event?
Sustained.
Of the 30, what's the percentage of possible events that occurred, possible scenarios, I should say, wherein the tech stream event occurred after the last interaction with John's phone? What's the percentage?
That's sustained.
You said it's 3 out of 30, correct?
Yes,
Is that 10%?
that is 10%.
Yeah, it's sustained and a movement is stricken.
He's trying.
What percentage is
The
3?
faces.
Just do basic math for me. What is the percentage between 3 and 30?
Sustained.
What? Why is that sustained?
If I told you hypothetically,
What?
I'm going to see you type out for a second.
This is garbage, man. Come on, Bev. Matthew's thinking I can't say what percentage 3 is of 30. What are we doing here? Oh my God. Is that sidebot number 4? Y'all have to let me know. This is insane. Absolutely insane. Let me skip ahead here. Jeez. Why can't he ask that question? Your Honor, can I approach any 5th grader in public school right now can tell me what percentage 3 is of 30. So can we just move on? This is crazy. It's number 4. Thank you, Amy. I'll be reading y'all super chats shortly. Jeez. It's not leading. He doesn't need foundation. What's the objection? And what's she sustaining?
following your analysis of the totality of the possible scenarios, did you come to a conclusion that the vast majority, let me rephrase that, did you come to any conclusion about the numbers as they relate to the positive interactions versus the negative? And when I say positive versus negative, I'm talking about the phraseology that you used. John's phone interaction being in the positive side versus John's phone interaction being in the negative side.
Yes.
And what were those?
Of the 30 possibilities, 25 of them, it's a positive. John's interaction window is positive for 25 of them.
And only 3 were negative?
Correct. Only 3 were, of the 30 were negative.
Okay. Okay, we can take that slide down. Is there a data recorder on the Toyota SUV that we've been talking about, that 2021 Toyota SUV 570, that's designed to record impact?
Yes.
What is that? What is that mechanism?
That would be the airbag control module.
The ACM?
ACM.
Did you look at that?
I was provided a copy of the download from the ACM.
What did the data recorder indicate, if anything, related to any impact on January 29th, 2022?
There were no recorded events whatsoever on the ACM.
Did the vehicle control history record whether there was any history of a collision on that car, ever?
No.
What does the vehicle control history record specifically?
It records a lot of operational parameters about the vehicle. What I mean by that is it records things like what the driver is doing, for example, steering wheel angle, accelerator pedal position, whether the brake is being pressed. It also records what the vehicle is doing, for example, speed, or the engine RPM, or the accelerations of it.
Does the TechStream data event indicate that there's a, and I'm talking about very specifically, the TechStream data, does that indicate whether or not there's a collision in the car?
No.
Does the TechStream data event mean that if you find a TechStream data event or a trigger event, does that mean that the airbags are deployed?
No.
Does it mean that the vehicle impacted with something solid?
No.
Does it mean that the vehicle impacted with a pedestrian?
No.
Cowbell nailed it.
You reviewed the raw TechStream data associated with the entirety of Ms. Reed's vehicle, did you not?
Yes.
How many TechStream events or triggers were found on Ms. Reed's vehicle during the course of the 8-month period prior to January 29th?
Objection.
So can you narrow that, Mr. Jackson?
Sure.
I object to the whole line if
And I need to see your typo.
Jeez, man. During direct, what is going on here, man? Let me read some super chats. This is getting on my nerve. Thank you, Coco. Did I not type that in the chat? I meant to type that in the chat. Let me read some super chats real quick because this is, I'm not gonna say. This is getting on my nerves. Why are there so many objections during this testimony? Let me see. Where's the last one I read? I want to make sure I get them in here. Here we go. Starting with Cynthia Hart is in the building with the 20 bombs. Says, sorry, ClassE. I'm guilty for yesterday's rhetoric. ClassE means classy. Needed to send some love. Sorry, chat. I love you all. Cynthia, what are you talking about? Thank you for the support. You're always super dope in here. She also gifted a membership. Cynthia, I have no idea what you're talking about, so you have to clarify. Kara Hampton gifted 5 memberships. Oh my goodness. If you got a membership from any of these folks I'm about to mention, make sure you say thank you in the chat, because Cynthia gifted membership. Kara gifted 5 of them things. Slim Life in here gifted 5 as well. Wow. And then Wendy W became a new member. Welcome, Wendy. Make sure you check out the members only content if you could. Kara Hampton also says with the 5 bomb, pay my handsome tax. Appreciate you. The defense is gonna seal all this up. Go defense, go. They're on their way, but man, this is a bumpy road right now. Speed bumps like crazy. They have not been able to get a smooth line of questioning yet, which is kind of getting on my nerves.